Imagine walking through a busy American city, and suddenly a massive wave comes rushing down the street. But it isn't water, it's molasses. In 1919, something incredibly strange happened in Boston, Massachusetts. A huge industrial storage tank suddenly failed, releasing millions of gallons of molasses into the surrounding neighborhood. Buildings were damaged, vehicles were pushed around, and people were caught completely off guard. This is the strange story of the Great Molasses Flood. Boston in 1919 was a rapidly growing industrial city. In the North End, the Purity Distilling Company stored enormous quantities of molasses in a huge steel tank. Molasses might sound harmless, but when you have millions of gallons of it stored in one enormous tank, the situation becomes very different. The tank was roughly 50 feet tall and 90 feet wide. It could hold more than 2 million gallons of molasses, and there were warning signs that something wasn't quite right. Residents reportedly heard strange noises coming from the tank. There were also concerns about leaks, but the tank remained in operation. Then came January 15th, 1919. It was an unusually warm day in Boston, following a period of cold weather. Around lunchtime, people in the neighborhood were going about their normal routines. Workers were at nearby businesses. Children were playing. Streetcars were moving through the area. Nobody expected anything extraordinary to happen. Then, the tank suddenly failed. A huge quantity of molasses was released all at once. Instead of slowly flowing like syrup from a bottle, the enormous mass of molasses moved through the streets with tremendous force. A wave of molasses swept through the neighborhood. Buildings and structures were damaged. Vehicles were displaced. Railroad infrastructure was affected, and people nearby had almost no time to react. The thick material made movement and rescue extremely difficult. The disaster lasted only a short time, but its consequences were devastating. Emergency workers, police officers, firefighters, and volunteers rushed into the area. Rescue efforts became extremely difficult because the molasses had spread across streets and around structures. The cleanup took weeks. The disaster killed 21 people and injured around 150 others. For the people living nearby, it was almost impossible to believe what had happened. A normal afternoon had turned into one of the strangest disasters in American history. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting. The disaster wasn't simply a case of a tank randomly failing. Investigations and later legal proceedings raised serious questions about the tank's construction, testing, maintenance, and the company's responsibility. The tank had reportedly been filled to enormous levels, and there were concerns about its structural integrity. The incident eventually became an important legal case. After years of litigation, a court found the company responsible and awarded damages to victims. The disaster helped draw attention to the importance of engineering standards, inspections, and corporate responsibility. Today, the Great Molasses Flood is remembered as one of the strangest disasters in American history, but behind the bizarre headline is an important lesson. Industrial technology can make everyday life easier, but when enormous amounts of energy or material are concentrated in one place, engineering failures can have enormous consequences. The disaster also showed why safety inspections and engineering standards matter. Something as ordinary as molasses became part of American history. So the next time someone tells you that history is boring, remember this story. Because in 1919, an American neighborhood was hit by a giant wave of molasses. And what sounds like something from a cartoon was actually a real historical tragedy. What strange historical event should we investigate next? Subscribe for more unbelievable stories.